Welcome to the second station in our 14 stations of the cross, the Via Dolorosa, the steps of Jesus from Maundy Thursday night that led finally to his crucifixion and death. The second step is the arrest of Jesus, the betrayal by Judas. We're going to look at Luke chapter 22, verses 47 to 48. While Jesus was still speaking, suddenly a crowd came, and the one called Judas, one of the 12, was leading them. He approached Jesus to kiss him, but Jesus said to him, "Judas, is it with a kiss that you are betraying the Son of Man?" Here is the way Giotto portrayed the kiss of Judas, early 14th century, and the front end of the Renaissance. And this is Chris Cook, a much more contemporary rendering. I remember as a young teenager calling my mother at work, interrupted her job, and said, "Mom, I was just thinking about Judas. Now, he betrays Jesus with a kiss. And because of that, shouldn't we all stop kissing?" I guess she was willing to share a little theology with her oldest son, and she paused for a minute. She says, "Well, kissing is really a good thing. We should stop doing it just because Judas misused it." Betrayal. Yeah, kissing is a good thing. It was used in betrayal. And if you imagine yourself as Jesus getting betrayed, you can imagine how awful it is. And today, regardless of our moral standards, one thing stands clear to everybody, that if you cheat on your spouse, or if you cheat on someone to whom you've pledged devotion, we all know that is wrong, that it can result in divorce, violence, or worse. Betrayal is a deeply felt affront that we have here. Pastor Roberts reminds us that a decade and a half or so ago, National Geographic had published the recently discovered Gospel of Judas, a second century Gnostic gospel that could be interpreted that Judas was a hero. After all, look at the great self-sacrifice he did in order to keep the wheels of redemption turning. And he, in his kiss of death, actually contributed to Jesus redeeming the world. Well, that's not very good theology. If we go way back to the book of Genesis, and Joseph's getting sold into slavery by his brothers, carried off to Egypt where he works as a slave, then the tides turn. And there's a famine in Israel, and Israel goes down to Egypt, and there's Joseph in a position to feed them with Egyptian harvest. And the book of Genesis says what human beings intended for evil, God twisted and changed so that it would serve the good. What you and I as human beings intend as evil, God changes and makes it good. Does that apply here then? Judas intending something for evil, but following the crucifixion on Good Friday, God raises Jesus from the dead on Easter. God turns human evil into something grand and glorious and a blessing for us. Well, our task in the Stations of the Cross is to feel to the extent that we can the feelings of Jesus. Think about when you've been betrayed, but also think about those moments when perhaps you or I, in some way, followed Judas instead of Jesus. Has that happened? Could that happen? Well, let's share together the prayer that Pastor Roberts has offered us, in which we include that possibility in what we pray. I'm going to take a sip of my coffee. Now let's join in Pastor Roberts' prayer. O Lord, as much as I hate to admit it to myself and to you, there is a bit of Judas in me. Forgive me for the times that I have pledged my love for you, only to reject you in the way that I live. Help me to see where my commitment to you is mixed, where my heart is divided against itself. Set me free to be wholly devoted to you, even when I don't understand you, even when I'm afraid that following you is too risky. Amen. That is Station 2. Come back for Station 3.